Hello and welcome to my presentation. I am Büyük, working as PHP backend developer in Teknasyon, and I have a solid background in science of communication as I have a degree on the related field. And today we are going to talk about what is communication, how can they improve your software developer skills in a business perspective, and communication and programming similarities. Then, how can they improve your skills as a software developer in a technical way? Then we are going to talk about how to improve them. So what is communication? It is an interaction process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common language. And what is a language? Well, it's a structured system that contains meanings behind them, which are defined by their users. They can be symbols, signs, behavior, or anything you may say actually. And a behavior may mean different things for different people who give a meaning to it, leading to creation of different languages. For example, did you know the word gift means poison in German and present in English? The creators of the two languages pursued these words differently, which led them to comprehend and define it different meanings from each other. So comprehension is the key that leads one to understand, and a good communicator always do their best to understand and make others understand. This is basically the communication process. There's a sender which encodes the message with a language and sends it. And the message gets decoded by the receiver through its comprehension. After that, the receiver returns a feedback. With this feedback, the sender can understand whether its message correctly understood or not. And there can be some noise which could affect the process in a negative way. And how can they help us from a business perspective? Well, in modern world, communication is important and we hear about it a lot. But what about details? First, it is a key that leads us to be better. And we, humans, improved ourselves with communication through the ages of the history. And developers should always make themselves a better version of themselves, like they develop applications, for example. Also, when working on a project, have you ever tried to explain some technical term to a non-technical colleague and got a response like this? For this not to happen, we need to be more understandable. And as Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And this means communication skills not only makes us understandable, but makes us understand the topic better as our brain tries to make deeper connections about the topic. In summary, they help us collaborate better by making us express our ideas in a clear way. And whether in business meetings, design review meetings when explaining your ideas about the future, or planning meetings when giving story points and estimation times, they are really helpful. And what if I told you that they are actually not so different from each other, communication and coding? You know what is this? This is the media. In media, programmers seem to be lacking in social skills, where they are arrogant or socially awkward, you might say. This is generally far from truth. In fact, all of you, my programmer fellows, have a better understanding about communication than most people. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. This is the communication process that I showed you earlier. And what about this one? This is the basic flowchart of an input and output of an HTTP request, which you are very familiar with. As you can see, both functions in very similar ways. And when we go into the details, when it comes to communication, there's a factor called brain. This gives both sender and receiver comprehensions to understand things and act. And this process is studied by psychology. And in HTTP requests, there's a computer behind the sender and server that gives both of them configs and working principles, as you know, to function, just like comprehension. And this process is studied by computer science. Also, both evaluate clarity and consciousness to be understandable. In coding, this could mean writing code that is easy to understand for humans and computers also, which are called readable code for humans and performant code for computers, you might say. And in communication, this means expressing your ideas in an easy to understand way. Both pays attention to detail for reaching true results. Both requires and improves your problem-solving skills and function by problem-solving skills. And both needs you to be adaptable for changing situations, whether it be new technologies in coding and new cultures and people in communication. Also, being adaptable improves you in general. As I mentioned that they are related and similar. Technically, one can improve other. I also talked about how can they help you from a business perspective. But what about direct improvement from technical perspective? Well, it helps you interact better with your engineering team, and with that, you become better at code reviews when expressing your ideas. And it leads to a better pair programming experience. This improves productivity and save time. And it helps you write better documentations. I know. Writing documentations isn't the best thing we enjoy when it comes to software development, but it definitely helps the process to make things easier, like maintaining the project. And it makes you write better comments. Most people say clean code does not need comments, and which is usually true. But a good comment can always help you to understand the logic behind, and it is useful. And it makes you write more clear test scenarios, which will improve test readability, make features of the project more understandable, and make refactoring easier, and gives better ideas to developers and product owners on testers, especially when writing Büyük test on Gherkin language. This is pretty similar to comments because both tells us what the code should be doing. And of course, it helps us write clean code. And I don't need to mention how important writing clean code is to us, because it will make our projects more readable, scalable, reusable, and maintainable. Basically, a developer's dream, you might say. If your code review process is like the right one, I think you should code clear more. For this, you'll need communication skills, my friends. As Phil Carton said, there are only two hard things in computer science: cache invalidation and naming things. Of course, cache invalidation is not our topic today, but naming things definitely are, because clean code is almost all about being understandable, and being understandable is all about communication skills. We usually use a bunch of best practices for coding clear related to communication. And let me show you about some of that. As you know, we use meaningful names are understandable. We use meaningful names to be understandable. The examples I'm going to give that are going to be in PHP language, by the way. And we avoid nesting too deeply, returning early to express our logic in a clear way, and avoid complexity. I think no one wants to write the code on the left, but the right one clearly says what it's doing. And we avoid mental mapping, because we use variables as they are rather than I or something, which is really bad if you use them like that. And we avoid adding unneeded context, and this saves us time, because we already know the properties of car class and related. If the properties are related to that class, why would we add another car prefix to the properties? I think this makes no sense. And we also define clean function names to be understandable. A method named handle in email class could confuse you, but a method named send on an email class will not confuse you. We define explanatory class constants for other developers to get the logic quickly and for consistency of the code base. Nothing is understood on left example. For example, what is 4, what is 1? But on the right example, the flow is clear, which gives us the ideas what the code is doing. And we split functions that does different things for them to be not only readable but more testable also. And how to improve your communication skills? There are many ways you can improve your communication skills, but we can talk about this for hours. So I'm just gonna spark things as a starter. You need to learn to listen before speaking, because understanding is more important than speaking in communication. As Peter Drucker said, the most important thing is communication is hearing what isn't said. And you need to speak clearly to be more understandable, like you code clean. And you need to practice a lot, because practice is the best teacher, and you should always practice to be better at everything in general, actually. And this is the most important part. And you need to understand how people comprehend. As I said earlier, it is the key that leads one to understand. And you need to analyze and understand your target and tailor a language to their comprehension, because everyone is different and can comprehend different. This is where different cultures, different thoughts come into mind. And you need to be aware of them. You need to analyze individuals, gain information about them, understand their thought process, and tailor a language to their comprehension, as I said. The spoken word contains as much meaning as the other person can understand. And everyone is different and can comprehend different in the end. And you also need to be aware of your target's emotional status. Emotions are the biggest difference between communication and coding. You need to understand and emphasize your target and update your message with that in mind. Try to understand their emotions, empathize with them, and get feedback. The meaning of the communication is the response you get, as you might remember from the before slides. So you need to know that you can be wrong. If so, adapt the situation and try again. You need to spend more time with them to progress for understanding their emotions. And you need to be aware of manipulation, because effective communication is not about twisting your needs and desires to please others for benefit, but expressing your thoughts in a way that your target understands. And there's a difference between manipulation and persuasion. You need to be aware of that. Persuasion is informing an individual with honest, rational facts and points to make them understand your point. And manipulation is using lies, emotional vulnerabilities, and superstitions to make an individual do something for your benefit. And I want to talk a bit about communication in programmer's perspective, as I'm going to do some metaphors about it. As a programmer, you can think of people as API projects, which are written in many different languages and has different responses to requests. And if you understand the system, you can make correct requests and get response correctly. You can think of yourself as an API token, or your face, for example, which makes you access different features of that person, just like token. And with your reputation level for the person, you can access some more features, you might say. And yes, people can be also hacked, just like computers. You can think of sociopaths or cyber thieves as black hat hackers in computer science, and psychiatrists as white hat hackers, for example. Of course, these are just metaphors that you can agree or disagree. I'm just trying to explain these things from a programmer's perspective, which is a good thing, as I said. After all, my target audience here today are programmers, and it is a good thing to tailor a language that my target audience understands, just like I explained you before. Thank you for listening to me, and I thank my company for they gave me a chance to present in this event. If you have any questions, we can talk in the questions section, and you can always reach me from the platforms below. This is my source code if you want to check. And I wish a good day to you. Goodbye and see you later.